Okay, Shalom. Shalom, Kwamisha Allah. Koholoimla. Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai Bahashim Rakahakodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and that by the Spirit taught us his beautiful truth. And just want to take the water to all the H.I.M and Akwaf that's out here sincerely keeping the laws, the statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai to the best of their ability. This is Yachanan Nawak. Just coming at you with another quick lesson, praying that it's edifying by the Spirit. And got the copyright disclaimer up. I want to play this video. And it's copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. So let's play this video of this teacher. I don't know why he kind of reminds me of he just got that look of the elder little bit out in GMS Hawaii. But he's crying because he's so hurt by the fact that the so-called blacks and brown people, you know what I'm saying, in his class, they're seniors. He breaks down, man, and says they can't read, they can't write. So let's play the video.
I literally broke down in the middle of class because I'm teaching seniors. These kids are leaving high school and going to college, hopefully, after they finish. We had 2 paragraphs to read, 1 sentence complete to write. I gave them the sentence stems. I basically completed the sentence for them in the model. These are 17 and 18-year-old kids, and they couldn't fill in 4 words. 4 words. I gave them the scenario. We annotated together. I gave them the answers before we even had the problem. And they couldn't do it. I don't know. I simply don't know where the problem is. This is only day 2. And I have seniors who simply cannot read and seniors who cannot write. They cannot write. They can reason. They have the ability to defend their reasoning if it's talking to their homeboy, but applying that to a written text, 2 paragraphs, and they couldn't do it. Our young black men, our young brown men, our young black girls, and our young brown girls oh, God.
Okay, man, as you can see, the guy's distraught about the fact that these Israelites can't read. But see, this is all systematic by Esau. Esau wants you to be this way. This is let's get Proverbs 22:6 real quick. And it reads, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And the perfect example is you can see niggas in their 40s, 50s, even 60s, hell, even 70s for some of these people they act like fucking kids, man. They look like fucking children. They dress like children. They got their pants hanging off their ass. I see them all damn day long. It's the same guys that's on my block right here. And I know they in their 50s, you know what I'm saying? But they walk up and down the block all damn day long, banging music, rap music, you know what I'm saying? With a beer in hand and their pants hanging off their ass, And this is what they want from Jake. And they're trained you Jake through the music, basically, the women, they train them on how to be, little YBs, and they train the dudes on how to be little YNs, and they don't care about anything else other than that. They shove basketball, NBA, NFL, and your latest rap video in your fucking face. They shove the newest video game down your throat, and your single mothers, because they done got rid of the fathers out of the homes, because fathers are very important in the homes, man. I remember, you know what I'm saying, I grew up with my grandparents, so I had my my grandfather and my grandmother, and but no, it was time that I grew up. No, your ass was going to school, and you was gonna learn. I remember, it was ass whoopings that was being handed out to your ass if you got certain grades, man. When that report card came, you better had, you better had, and especially if you had the ability to score high and you didn't, yeah, man, ass whoopings. And that was the fear of a father being in the home, man. But you don't have that anymore, man. You got the men out of the home, and you got women. If it wasn't for a computer and spell check, or their phone with spell check, and them being on Instagram and shit, like, they wouldn't know how to fucking write themselves, or read. Now, I worked with this one, she appeared to be an Edomite back in the days, but not too long ago. It was years back, though. It was a job I was working at, and she came in, and, that she was like one of the first generations where I like, damn, they don't teach y'all, like, she had to put an X down when it came to her signature, like how they used to do back in the 1700s, 1800s, because people didn't know how to write. They may have had a name, Billy Johnson or some shit like that, but they didn't know how to write it down. So they would just put an X on a line for their signature. And that's what she done when she came to the job. I'm like, damn, bitch, it's 20. We're in the 2020s. You know what I'm saying? Like, they did. And she was saying, we didn't learn in cursive in school. We didn't, I know they was trying to bring that back here in the school system, as far as like writing in cursive, which, I guess in a sense, I don't know, it was all stupid to me anyway. But that's what you learn how to print, and you learn how to write in cursive. When I was growing up, you learn Roman numerals, all kinds of shit. But it's all Edomite shit. But see, Esau too, it's crafty counsel from this devil that he done that to Jake, because he want to keep you down. But see, what he doesn't understand, he is creating the very division that's going to make them fall. When you go into, let's get Matthew chapter 12, verse 25, a nation divided. So he has actually kept this nation divided himself, without understanding that a nation divided cannot stand. Let's get it. Because he sets it up where the so-called white people get the most of the tax money. They get the best of the school equipment. The school is all nice and pristine. They get new computers. They get new microscopes. They get, all these different labs. They get all these different, they go on school trips. They go to, they got every single thing in these schools where they can prosper. But when it comes to the so-called black kids, it's just like, yeah, get them niggas a basketball court, and that's about it for them niggas. You know what I'm saying? They'll be all right from there, And the chicks over in the corner braiding each other hair or some shit. I mean, it just is what it is, man. That's how Esau set it up. But what he has done is, while he was doing all that, China, they're all together. When it comes to their children, them fucking kids over there go to school probably about 12 to 14 hours a day. And they're all collectively thinking on China. China. We're for China. They're patriotic when it comes to China. See? And other countries as well. But when it comes to you Americans, you were so stupid. You had the most brilliant minds in the world in captivity. You could have used these niggas to actually do a lot better for you, because Jake is the one that came up with all these beautiful inventions that make you comfortable in America. But you were so hateful, you tried to keep them down, and it actually has hurt your country, as opposed to it could have helped. You were just stupid. You got the crown jewels of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua in your hands, and you just misusing it, so to speak. This is Matthew 12 and 25. It says, and Yahushua knew their thoughts, and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. And every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? Right? So instead of all this fake ass work together, you could have actually really brought these people together. But we know that it's prophetic as well, so it wouldn't have happened that way. But just saying, they didn't even try. And actually Esau, he's the damn dummy. Really, in reality, man, these so-called white people don't let them fool you, man. They're not as smart as you. I went to school with these people. These people are not as smart as they let off to be, because these are the original cavemen. Let's get Job, because we're the ones that actually taught them how to move about in the planet and clean themselves up, man. These people was in them damn caves grunting, man. Let me just jump to the point on this guy. Let me see here though. I'll start at verse 1. Job 30:1. But now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. Job was like, man, I wouldn't even set these niggas with my dogs, man. Esau, he's into fondling dogs and shit. He's a freak all over. It says, yea, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished. For want and famine they were solitary. See, fleeing into the wilderness in former time desolate and waste, who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief, to dwell in the clefts of the valleys and the caves of the earth and the rocks. And in the rocks, this was Esau, the so-called white man. And this wasn't millions of years ago. He get to talking about, carbon dating, and this was 100,000 years ago. This was 20 billion years ago. No, man. This was a couple of thousand years ago when Esau was in these fucking caves, man. Right? It says, this is the point right here. Let me read this one right here in a new NLT. It says, they sounded like animals howling among the bushes, huddled together beneath the nettles. In the KJV, it says, among the bushes they brayed. So when you get this word braid, let's get this word bray. Let's see. Let's get the Google defined, but we can go into the Hebrew on it too. Braid is a past tense and past participle, salakia, participle of the verb bray. It most commonly means to make the loud, harsh cry of a donkey. This is how they were sounding. As a matter of fact, it's that family that live in the Appalachian Mountains here. They call them the most incest family in the world, and that's how they talk. Mama sleeping with the sons sleeping with the sisters, and they call them the most. You can go on YouTube and find them if you want to. But that's how they grunt. That's what braying is. It says to make loud, harsh cry of a donkey, or to speak and laugh in a loud, rough, and unpleasant way. But that's how they was talking, man. Animal sound. The harsh, loud cry made by donkey or mule. If you've ever seen a donkey or mule, you can pull it up. This is how they were sounding, man. So they asses couldn't even fucking talk. They couldn't even speak, a proper language, man, until the Lord brought them out of those caves and so somewhat awakened them, gave them that second jolt, going into Revelation. They was let loose for that 1,000 years. So they're pretty much at the end of their 1,000 years right now, before they asses go back into captivity. And they are more than likely go back to grunting and braying, because we're not going to need them to talk like that. We ain't going to need them for shit. They ain't going to be running no governments. There ain't going to be no matter of fact, the scripture talks about that they do not rise. They're not going to be doing any of that. We're not going to need them for any of that. We just going to manual labor the shit out of the asses. That's it. That's it. So we're not going to need their, because what are they doing anyway? What use do we really get out of them being in control of the food, the water, the air? Because the air quality is horrible. The food quality is horrible these days. The water quality is horrible. We don't need these people to be in control of anything. That's the reason why you got all these recalls on everything. You got all this sickness going on. You got this guy. These people are in labs coming up with fucking death traps for your ass, man. In the form of what they call medicine. Isaiah 14:21. It says, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, because they're not going to rise anymore, nor possess the land. They don't need to be in control of this land. Look at the land. Look at the earth. The scripture says that the Lord going to destroy those that destroy the earth. It says, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. We don't need your concrete jungles, man. You have people walking on concrete, your damn joints all fucked all up. You got people all stuffed in these buildings, calling them apartments, or nigga next door to you. You can smell him cooking pork. You can hear him banging his wife down. You know, he falls asleep high as hell. He set the damn building on fire. Now you gotta try and get your damn kids and shit out of there. You're not even supposed to be around people like that. You're supposed to have land. But he's not as smart as he lets off to be. Now he got this fucking AI, you know. And that shit is weirdoism. You know, you know, we use it here and there for the sake of these lessons, you know, to get information quicker, you know, type of deal. But most of Esau's information is a goddamn lie. If it's not basic questions, you get to asking about real truth or real, it's gonna give you some bullshit. Like this nigga, you know what I'm saying? This guy, you know, he is still on the books that people come from monkeys and shit. Like what the fuck kind of shit is that? See? Nigga Jake right there I was just talking about. Nigga 60 with a black and mild hanging out of his mouth trying to be a young YN. Anyway though, man, I didn't want to keep this long, but you know, yeah, it's kind of, you know, hey, we at the end of this thing, man. We at the end of this thing. Because if it was up to me and I had a child, man, I've always said that. And I wish my parents had done that with me. Well, you know, prophecy is prophecy. We all got a lot. Man's goings of the Lord. I'm just saying that speaking as a man, sending children to school until they hit the 12th grade and then college, that shit is stupid as hell. You might as well send them to school, you know, to get Esau off your ass, because if you don't send them to school, they can come and arrest your ass and take your children. But, you know, you send them to school until their rightful age. Maybe that 9th grade age, whatever age that is. I think it's around 14, you know, 15 or so, some shit like that. And then from there, you can just take them right out of school and send them to a trade school. Why the fuck is they gonna be? By the time the rest of these motherfuckers become seniors and walk across that fucking stage, if he go to a trade school, by the time he coming out of 8th grade going into a trade school, he can be a fucking mechanic in those 4 years. He can be a net electrician or a damn plumber. He can be making money, you know what I'm saying? Like he could already be making money and already have a license, a real license to actually make some decent money to survive. And you got these niggas coming out of, you know, walking across the stage in the 12th grade, getting a diploma that don't matter, trying to get into a school or college that's not going to get them they can't get a job in once they come out anyway. Just going to be clobbered in fucking school debt. That shit is stupid. But see, Esau, he doesn't teach nobody nothing like that. He doesn't want anyone to know anything like that. Some of these so-called white people, you know what I'm saying, they kind of, you know, because you got people out here, man, that don't even have no education, man, that became millionaires, man. You know? Because it's really all about a skill. What's going on, huh? You know? So basically, man, you go to the trade school, you get you a skill, you come on out, man, and you get to work. Because we're just here anyway to get our daily bread. You know, but see, these people, you already know where this guy coming from. You know, you got these kids, they in school. They want to, you know, they got to have the newest layout. They got to have the newest gear, the freshest Jordans, the newest this, the newest that, the newest. And to keep up with that shit, and ain't no jobs. Niggas out on the streets, you out on the block. As soon as you get out of high school, whatever, you just wild bulls in a net. That's Jake, man. Out here, you know, now you shooting at somebody or they shooting at you. You're getting some chick pregnant, you know what I'm saying? If you ever do get a job, she got your ass on child support for 18 years. And it's just an ongoing curse. I mean, it's all about it's all curses when it comes to us, though. You know, overall, man. But we almost out of here, man. We're almost out of here. Because this right here, just imagine another whatever amount of years of this shit. Just imagine this generation of 18-year-olds that he's talking about. They actually have children, and then they children become 18 years old. Well, what the fuck you think this place gonna be like? This place is through, man. It's cooked, man. And this is, he's talking about black and brown children. This is not just our people, man. This is Edomites too. Edomites are really fucking dumb. I went to school with a gang of them, and I can remember when I went to school around the time when they started that I forgot what they called it, but it was like I can remember being in 7th grade, and there was a bunch of dumbass so-called white boys in there. And them niggas is like, 7th grade, you like, I'm trying to think how old are you in 7th grade? What are you, like 12? Some shit, I don't know. 12, 13, whatever the fuck. But we had people in the school that were actually, they had mustaches. These motherfuckers had beards and shit. They was like 18, still in the 7th grade because they didn't pass. They could never do the work because they couldn't understand. They was just stupid as hell. But what started happening was those white parents, because they was on them little girls. Them dudes is 18. It's time to get some box. You know what I'm saying? Shit, them niggas is like 18, 19 in 7th grade. Like, shit. Hey, them 7th graders was coming from over on the 6th grade side. Them little girls was just going on they periods. Them little flowers, they was getting it. They needed that itch scratch. Man, them dudes was knocking them girls off. And those parents was like, what the fuck is going on? You got to get rid of these old ass niggas. These niggas is in here and fucking everything moving. And that's what ended up happening with a lot of them. They ended up just giving them a diploma. They never even went to the high school. They never made it to the high school. I can remember they came in, they gave those niggas some diplomas and said, you've graduated, get your ass on, don't come back. That's what they were doing then. This was in Alabama. I'm not sure what they were doing here in these cities. But, of course, if a guy keep flunking, what they call it flunk, you flunk the 7th grade. Some of them motherfuckers is in 7th grade, you know what I'm saying, like 4, 5, 6 times every year. They got to a point that they just go to class. Motherfuckers ain't even bring a pencil or a pen or a notebook. And they weren't planning on doing nothing. They sit there, they, joke, clown, throw shit at the teachers. I can remember that shit, man. We was scared of them niggas because they was old as hell. I remember one of them, this was a so-called black dude, though. He lived not too far away from me. And I never forget his name. I ain't gonna say his name on the hookup. But I never forget his name because, the guy actually saved my life one time. By the spirit and power of Yahweh H.I.M Yahushai, man. I was up at a creek, we had them, they call swimming holes in the South. And I was on one of those inner tubes, big ass, they call them with tractor tire inner tubes. They had them big ass inner tubes. You just sit up on it while you're in the water. And they had, it was an underwater current, like a little whirlwind that hit my feet. That was hanging at the bottom. That whirlwind, that shit spent me around real quick and it just spun me out and it shot me off. And now I'm moving down this creek. My family looking at me and everything. I'm gone. Everybody screaming. They couldn't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? It was just like they just seeing me just float away. I'm out. Moving fast as hell. That creek current pulled up on me. And, it was certain ways that you can get into the creek. It was like in some backwoods. You could pull up from this part of town. You could pull up from this part of town. Whatever. But I was gone. And after a while, I was passing people. But then that one dude, I want to say his name so bad, but but anyway, that one dude, he seen me. He knew me though. You know what I'm saying? He was always cool with me. He wasn't like one of the the older guys that picked it. He he looked out for the younger dudes and shit. But man, he seen me and he could see. He like, I know he in trouble. He's like, such and such, you all right? And he jumped out there, man. But he was so goddamn big. You know what I'm saying? I was, this boy was off that Southern food too, man. That dude was every bit of 6'6", 6'7" back then. You know what I'm saying? He was probably, 300, I'm talking about muscular pounds. Because Jake was cut back then. Jake wasn't, food was better then. And they was eating that Southern food, man. But he jumped over in there, man. He swam against that current. And he came out there, man, and he yanked my ass in. And I can remember going to the local pool that next morning. Went to swimming lessons. And I was like, I'll never, be in that situation like that again. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know how to swim. But I learned how to swim that next day, and I got good at it. And then I was into gymnastics, so I started diving and shit like that. So I enjoyed swimming. But that guy, he was one of those dudes that was in school. That's how I knew him. He didn't go to high school. We went on to high school. They gave him one of those diplomas. They was like, man, you gotta just go on. It was like about 6 or 7 of them. Big ass dudes, man. Because like I said, they was like, you would have thought they was teachers. They was like, motherfuckers had fucking mustaches and fucking beards, man. We just kids, or young, little young adults, you know what I'm saying, so to speak. But man, yeah, that dude saved me, man. All by the spirit and power of Yahweh, by H.I.M. I'll never forget him. I was scared as shit, man, because I didn't know where I was gonna end up at. I couldn't stop, couldn't do anything. I was helpless, man. But that was the Lord looking out for me. But anyway, telling that story. But anyway, that, but this is what Esau want though. Esau, he want our people to be intellectually down, so he can, really, he can really say, well, hey, look, we have a reason for doing what we do to them. Look at them. Look at how they act. Look at how they, they move about the earth. Look at them. They're a germ. They're a parasite. When really it's Esau. He's the fucking parasite. He's really the cancer of the planet. But anyway, I'm gonna end out there. I pray that the lesson was edifying. Kwame Yashala, and the Baba Ball.